Good morning, brothers and sisters. Today we hear the story about the multiplication of the loaves and fish, and it's a story that's very familiar to us. And there's been kind of this trend in kind of recent years to kind of explain the story in a different way. People, very well-intentioned priests and Christian speakers, will talk about this story in terms of, well, what Jesus really did here is, this wasn't really a miracle of multiplication. This is Jesus, what he did is he was just so inspiring, and he was just such a wonderful teacher that the people were inspired, and then what they did is they all had food and they shared it together in this big meal, and that's what was going on here. And unfortunately, as well-intentioned as that message is, and as beautiful a message as that is, it's important to share in the things that we have. That's a good message. But if that's our understanding of the story, we're missing the main thing that Jesus is trying to tell us in this gospel story today. We're gonna miss that point if that's the way we look at it. This miracle of multiplication is the only miracle that's recorded in all four of the gospels. Not even raising Lazarus from the dead made it into all four of the gospels. Just this one. This shows this is a significant miracle, and it's something that was significant in the ministry of Jesus. It's a significant turning point where he brings the people back to the time when God took care of their needs. He reminds them of the time when they were in the desert, had nothing, and he was the one, God, who could provide for them. And Jesus is trying to remind us of that in what he's doing here. And if we want to know what this story is about, we just have to read it. We don't have to come up with some interpretation, of our own doing. It's plainly in there. We just have to look at what the story says and read it. Now, very important. One of the things that's most important to remember in this story is that there's a problem here. The disciples are bringing a problem to Jesus. The problem is that the people are hungry, and it's late in the day. This is a problem. And they want to solve it, which is very good. Now, I think if we look at our world today, we have no shortage of problems in our world today, right? And it's real easy to point out the problems a lot of times. It's very easy for us to say, that's a problem, that's a problem. But we need to work on finding a solution. This is what the disciples are trying to do. So they go to Jesus and they say, look, this is a problem. And it's interesting to see what the apostles' solution is to this problem. Because you think that men of God would always be looking to Jesus as the solution to all of these problems. But what do they say in the text? What is their solution to the problem of these people being hungry? Send them away, Lord. Send them away so they can go take care of it themselves. And how often is that our response when we see the problems of the world? It's not my problem. I didn't do it. Someone else can take care of it. These people can take care of it themselves. I don't have to do anything. So many times, that's the way we approach the problems of the world. And yet in the story, Jesus says, I've got a better idea. You don't need to send them away. They don't need to go away from me. You give them some food. And of course, the apostles' message to this is what all of our message is to us when we hear this kind of thing. I can't. We don't have enough, Lord. How can we feed these people? We don't have enough. This is all we have. Here, look at what we have. There's no way that's going to be anywhere near enough to feed all these people. And yet Jesus, when they bring Jesus their offering, what does he say? Take this away, go find something, go find more, bring it to me. Because the message that Jesus is trying to show us in the gospel today, it doesn't matter what we have. Because in the hands of Jesus, a little can be everything. When we bring the problems of the world to Jesus, and we bring Jesus into our hearts and bring him out into the world, the problems of the world can be solved. And it doesn't seem like it. So many times we get overwhelmed with everything. Again, look at our world today. All the things that are going on. We've got a pandemic. We've got civil unrest. We've got, and even not those huge things, those massive global things. We just look at our own households. We're trying to raise families. We're trying to pay bills. We're trying to do all these little things in our life. And sometimes it just seems like we don't have enough. And yet what Jesus tells us is, you're right. You don't have enough by yourself. But with me, you can have everything that you need. And that's why he performs this miracle. And again, there's the short-term effect of the miracle, right? Because yes, the people here were fed. But that's only the short-term effect of this miracle. The long-term effect, what Jesus is trying to show us through this miraculous action, there's always a greater meaning to the miracles of Jesus. There's the immediate effect, and then there's what he's trying to show us. And what he's trying to show us is that if we bring our problems to him, we can solve anything. There is no problem or issue that we have that we can't conquer through Jesus. And so often we approach the problems of the world by ourselves. We're trying to figure them out ourselves. And that's never going to be enough. Until we bring it to Jesus, it's never going to be enough. And I like, years ago, I saw a talk by Jeff Cavins, who did a talk on this. And if you know Jeff Cavins, he's a really good Catholic speaker. And he presented this image, which I think is really nice and helpful, of the apostles. Like, actually, sometimes it's helpful, like when we do Lectio Divina or we're trying to read the scriptures, to put ourselves in that situation. What did it look like? What was going on? What was the scene? And he presents this image of the apostles taking these loaves out to the people. And we got 5 loaves and 2 fish. They're taking them out to the people, and they're giving them to people, and then they run out. And then what do? They come back to Jesus, and there's more. Well, I thought that was all we had. No, there's more. So they grab that. They go take it to the people. They come back to Jesus. There's more. And every time they go back to Jesus, there's more. It never runs out. Such that this little amount of food that they had became food for tens of thousands of people. And that's really the message. But the bigger message, too, is how Jesus wants to accomplish his work in the world. Because you notice Jesus doesn't just say, well, just have them come to me, I'll take care of it. Jesus could have snapped his fingers and food would have appeared in front of everybody. But that's not what he did. He said, you take it to them. I want you to be the one who takes the food to them. And he wants the work of his redemption to be accomplished through us. We can't do it by ourselves. We can't do it without Jesus. But he wants us to participate in it with him. Not because he needs us to. He could do it all himself. But he wants us to participate with him. And I always think of, the way I think of this, I always think of, when my wife will be making dinner at home, the kids always want to help her, right? I want to help. I want to do this. And she always lets them help, here, pour this in here. Here, measure this out, do that. And the question, of course, that comes up is, does she need them to do that? No. She's doing it just fine by herself. And in fact, she probably would do it better by herself if they weren't helping her. There's probably a lot of problems that come up that wouldn't be the case if she just did it herself. But when she lets them partake in that, participate, now that meal has changed. It's now no longer a meal that she has made for the family. It's a meal that they've prepared themselves. They've participated in it. And that's what the Lord wants us to do. He doesn't want to accomplish all of his redemption by himself. He wants us to be a part of it. And that's why he continues to feed us at the table of his altar. That's why we come here every week. It's not to hear a homily. It's not to just sing songs or listen to readings. We can do all those things, in other ways, and we don't have to be here for that. But the reason that we're here is we can be fed at the table of the Lord and then take that out to people. We feed at the table, and again, just like in that image, we then take it out to the people. And every time we say, Lord, I'm bogged down, I don't have enough, I can't do it anymore, he says, come back to my altar. I will feed you, and you'll be ready again. Lord, I can't do it again. Come back to my altar. I will feed you, and you can do it again. And that's the greater message of what he wants us to take from the gospel reading today. And so as we go through the rest of our Mass and our week, let us just ask ourselves, Lord, help me to be fed at your table. Help me to know that even though I can't do things on my own, that with you there is nothing I can't do. And Lord, where are you asking me to be your voice? And again, we have a little, it seems like. Sometimes it seems like we just have a little bit. Sometimes, I work in the ministry of the diaconate, ministry of service. Sometimes I meet people with all kinds of things that they're going through. Sometimes all we can do is to pray with someone or to offer them a kind word or a smile or a small act of charity. And that seems like not very much. Sometimes all we can do is invite someone to come to something at the church like Alpha or RCIA or something like that. Sometimes that's all we can do. And yet, we say to ourselves, that's not very much. And yet, that might be the thing that changes someone's life. That could be the thing that finally helps people to see what Christ can mean in their life and to shine the light of faith into their hearts. That may be all that we need. And so the beautiful message of this is that with God, we can do everything. Without God, we only have 2 loaves and 2 fish, and there's not much we can do with that. If we face the problems of the world by ourselves, we will always be hungry. But if we face the problems of the world with God and with Jesus, we will always be satisfied.